Yeah, I was going to update everybody on where we are with the passage plan to Japan and Alaska.
This is the grand unveiling. Very exciting.
And that little test sail is just 2,500 miles.
Beautiful.
You like it?
Good.
Today is the day that I'm going to fix the water maker. Well, I'm not going to quite fix it, I'm just going to go and have a look. We need to put new membranes in. We've had the water maker now for 9 years or so, and it's time to change the membranes. We actually haven't used the water maker for months. It's been decommissioned. We haven't even opened the cupboard in which the water maker sits for months, and I've got a horrible feeling we're going to find some guests down there. So let's go and have a look and just at least assess the situation. We might not do it today because the guys are still working in the cockpit on the Dodger. There's a lot of movement, there's covers everywhere, they're welding, they're doing all kinds of things. And I normally do the work on the water maker in the cockpit. That's my workbench. So anyway, enough of that. Let's just go and have a look and see what kind of condition the water maker is in. What have we got in here? Oh no. Yep. As I suspected, we have a few guests on board. 3 dead cockroaches. When we had a cockroach problem, we believe they were nesting somewhere around here. Might be because of Millie's food down there, not sure. But yeah, there's some, not just the cockroaches, but there's actually cockroach eggs, which are all the little black marks there. So yes, right, well, we need to clear that up before we continue. So this is the water maker, and those are the 2 membranes that we're going to replace. Upon closer inspection, there appears to be quite a bit of rust going on down here. So I'm going to take this off and give it a good clean just to see if that's something we can salvage or if it's something that we might have to replace. We'll probably end up stripping the whole thing because it hasn't been used for a while. I'm not keen on starting it with it having not been used for a while. So I'm going to strip it all down. This, for example, this knob here, this pushes the piston inside the lower block, the upper block, back off center, because sometimes if you turn the water maker off at the wrong point, the piston ends up in the middle and it can't recalibrate itself when you start it again. So that's what this knob is for, and unfortunately I can't turn it by hand. I don't want to force it, so clearly there's a little bit of, well, something's happened to it. So yeah, anyway, at least I've had a look at it. As I say, might not do anything about it today, but I will at least have a clear idea about what I have to do once those boys have finished in the cockpit. Well, here's the current state of our cockpit. A crisscross of wires, cables, string, bits and pieces. And as you can see, this is the template that Ton and Tui made out of ply. And on the other side of that is our acrylic. And we have got it all down, cut into place, and we've got the stainless outside parts have been made up, which are, you can see this, it's not set yet. And what they're doing now, Ton and Tui, are putting in that strip. I'll go around the other side so it makes more sense, but essentially this is being held in place by, at the back, stainless bars there and there, and on the front, stainless bars which are being bolted into place. And of course between all of that we have a mixture of butyl tape and Sikaflex. So let's just go and have a quick look around the other side and see what's going on. Okay, a bit windy around this side, so you can see that's one of the corners, which is a separate curve, and that goes over the top of the perspex, and inside of that stainless curve is our butyl tape. And you can see they're also putting butyl tape onto the bolts. When we're finished doing this, we're going to be putting Sikaflex around the inside. But at the moment we're just tightening up these bolts and making sure that the stainless and the butyl tape holds tight onto that perspex. Let's all go this morning on Esper. Here we've got Wit, who is measuring up the stainless for the window in the middle of the Dodger. Ton and Tui meanwhile are just fitting the starboard side acrylic. Now you can see here, there's the port side acrylic. It's in place, and we've even gone as far as fitting it properly. Down there you can see the butyl tape. We haven't trimmed it yet, so it still looks a bit of a mess, but that outside stainless bar is holding the bottom of the acrylic in place, and obviously you can see we've used butyl tape on the outside. On the inside there you can just see that wood there is actually the template which we've left inside at the moment, but that is going to be Sikaflexed around the inside there. In the centre we have gone for a middle window, so we've broken up this central piece here. To have one big window wouldn't work, there'd be too much strain on the perspex on the acrylic, so we've divided it up into three, and the middle part is going to be the window. Here we're looking at the side, the port side of the acrylic, and you can see we've got another bar that runs vertical. That is bolted into place, and again that holds the acrylic there. Now, unfortunately the acrylic wasn't quite big enough to fit the curve because they had to cut it at a funny angle, so we ended up losing a corner here. But that's worked out quite well because you can see we've put a hole in there, and that is where our drain from the Dodger is going to go. So the hose is going to run outside, come outside here. So we've got two cables running down the vertical stanchion on the starboard side of the Dodger, and the guys that were welding extra bits to it were there when I threaded the original cables in. In fact, they helped me do it. But what they forgot was that when they were welding, they scorched one of the cables. You can see here, look, melted, scorched, melted. So we've got to replace it. We attempted to run a mouse down the old cable, that broke. So now we're trying to put another cable in. Tui's at the top trying to thread it down. It's a very small hole at the bottom that it's coming out of, so he's got to get it right. Quick Ton and Tui update. You can see Tui there beavering away with the butyl tape. It's local stuff, it's black, as I said before. It's very, very sticky, quite difficult to work with this stuff actually, but it's industrial strength. That's what they use for the roofs around here. And here we go, look at this. This is the first for you. That's the port acrylic now in place, Sikaflexed in, Sikaflexed around the edges on the inside there, Sikaflexed up the top there from the outside. The lower acrylic and the upper acrylic is in place. They're still building the frame for the window, and as you can see Tui is just working on this L bracket, and that's the piece that goes up there and around the bottom there. So we are almost done, we're not far from completion. As you can see we've kept this cover on it, but Ton was saying that we should not leave it on forever because with the sun and the rain it gets baked on the plastic, so we'll probably take that off soon and then put a plastic overlay just to cover it up until our canvas man comes and builds some blinds for them, which we're going to be fitting to the outside of it in sunny weather when we're not sailing. But it's coming together, it's looking good. Right, so this is last morning of work for Ton and Tui. A little bit dark in this down here. Tui's just finishing off the bolts. As you know, we've doubled up all the bolts on the main cupboards, but we're bolting down absolutely everything, so including underneath the cushions and behind the cushions. Meanwhile, let's go and see what Ton is up to. Ton? What are you doing?
Now make acrylic finish.
Yeah.
Look good, yeah.
Yeah, so Ton is having the enviable task of taking off finally this plastic, the paper sheet. We can't keep it on forever. The more it gets rained on and the longer it stays out in the sun, the more this will stick to the acrylic. So we are finally taking this off. And the other thing Tom's been doing this morning is putting film around the top here. Now this is the same film that they use in car windscreens, and it's just a way of finishing off the top part, because the problem we had was that behind this acrylic it was Sikaflex on the top on the other side, so you could see that Sikaflex. So what we're going to do when this is dried is we're going to run a bead of black Sikaflex underneath here just to finish it off nicely. This is the grand unveiling. Very exciting. What do you think, Ton?
Yeah, look beautiful.
Beautiful.
You like it?
Good.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
It's amazing. There's so much protection here, just completely no wind from the front at all. It looks beautiful. Look at, we can see so much more than we could before when we had that very low canvas windshield. So yeah, it's great. There are a few little marks, going to have to go around that over the next few days and just check them a little bit. You think this is crazing, don't you, up here? But on the whole, so much better than I ever imagined it could be.
And so here we are in the pretty much near completed cockpit, and we thought we'd record this end bit on the GoPro just to give you a nice wide angle as to what it looks like inside.
Bright, isn't it?
It's looking good. So we've still got a couple more things to do. We've got the catches on the windows, which are currently being made by the stainless guys, and then Sen is finishing off the canvas work. So those are the last two things that are preventing us from leaving, but once those two things are done, then we are off.
We're out of here. Can't wait.
Hopefully at some point in a future episode we will talk a bit more about the Dodger, about lessons learned, maybe some costs, that kind of thing as well. But really we're just keen to crack on and get back in the water and shoot off. On that subject, Liz, I think you have some important news.
Yeah, I was going to update everybody on where we are with the passage plan to Japan and Alaska. So if you remember, we announced this back in March. That's 6 months ago. We're now September. Yeah. What we said at the time was that we were planning to leave in April 2019. So we're still well on track for that. We had hoped earlier this year that we might be able to get away this southwest monsoon, but as you know, various things cropped up and we couldn't do so. So we've got a bit of time to kill almost don't like to say that out loud, but it looks like we might be having a bit more time. So I've been checking my passage plan, and we've decided we're going to take a detour. We're going to test the boat. We're going to take her over to Sumatra.
Now, if you remember, this was actually our original plan last year. So we're actually going back to our very original plan, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. And this time we're going to incorporate it, perhaps in a way, into the whole plan to Alaska. So, do you want to hear the details?
Go for it.
All right, the details are we leave Phuket around mid-February. We pop straight over to Pulawai in Aceh on the top part of Sumatra. We then make our way down the west coast. Which is going to be really interesting.
So exciting.
So we'll be heading down in the northwest, and as we go down, as we hit the bottom, the very bottom tip of Sumatra, we hope we're going to be able to anchor in Krakatoa.
Ooh.
And after Krakatoa, through the Sunda Strait, that's where we have to be a little bit careful about the weather, but I am told by those who know and who've been there, and by Andy Scott, who publishes the Indonesia Cruising Guide, transitional times are good to go. So May is good. So we'll go through there in May to Jakarta. I think used to be the most populated city in the world. We'll go to Jakarta, then up from Jakarta to Belitung, possibly Nongsa to check out, not exactly sure which place, then over to Anambas and across to Borneo.
Wow.
And that little test sail is just 2,500 miles.
2,500 mile test sail. That's not bad going. We should a nice little break, shakedown.
Oh, it's going to be great.
And we should say actually that the only people we know that have been down the west coast of Sumatra are surfers. It's a big surf spot, but they tend to go in the southwest monsoon. It's pretty remote, and I don't think any of the pilot guides cover that coast really, do they?
No, well, Andy said if we're going that way, please take some shots, particularly interested in aerial footage, because he'd like to see some anchorages and to get us to report back on him on particularly the southwest. People go to the north and the middle, but they tend to use that as a dropping off point to go across the Indian Ocean to Cocos Keeling or somewhere like that. You don't normally go back through that way. I've met one other yachty, Mark Bongers, who I've been chatting to about his trip down there, but most people just don't go through that Sunda Strait that way, so it's quite an unusual stop.
Really excited about this, and happy that we're still on schedule as well, despite all this hold up here in the marina doing the work that we've done currently. We are still on schedule, so we've got loads of sailing coming up, and it's just brilliant. So we're not too far away now from leaving and sort of starting that journey.
Yeah, a few more bits and pieces to do before we leave in February. You've got to put the solar panels on, a few things like that. So a bit of maintenance and this, that and the other.
With a bit of sailing.
With a bit of sailing, yeah, definitely, in between and around the mountain. Maybe even finding a few more anchorages in this area that we haven't been to
there's
before.
Loads, there's so many, there's so much stuff we haven't covered off here, but I think now the focus is on that fantastic trip to Sumatra. Just can't wait. Okay, good stuff. Right, in the meantime, don't forget, like, comment, share, subscribe, all of those things, and
peace and fair winds.